it seems like the federal government, which would be Donald Trump's administration when it's all said and done, since Trump is about to take back over, federal government is expected to charge him federally, we believe, to give the chances to go after him for the death penalty. Accused CEO killer Luigi Mangione is expected to face federal charges in the coming days, on top of the first-degree New York State murder charge he was hit with Tuesday. According to law enforcement sources, told the New York Post federal prosecutors have secured an indictment from a grand jury against the 26-year-old who allegedly gunned down United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Part of the reasons the feds have pursued the case is because it could allow them to ask for the death penalty in the high-profile slaying. New York got rid of the death penalty in 2004, but federal authorities could still push to ask juries to impose capital punishment. All seems to be making sense now why New York Attorney General added on the terrorism charge. Even adding on the terrorism charge, he can't face the death penalty in New York, but adding on that terrorism charge, he can face it in federal charges. Sure seems like they are very quick to tack on terrorism as well as trying to nail someone for the death penalty if you kill someone in the elite class in America. But if you gun down unarmed black men, you might not even be charged if you're a cop, let alone face the death penalty. Regular street violence, not the death penalty most of the time. Mass shootings, a lot of them haven't gotten the death penalty. But here, you killed the CEO of the for-profit predatory healthcare industry that is in the tank with government, who has purchased the government, i.e. we live in the United Corporations of America. Terrorist, you're getting the death penalty because we want to produce a chill on the proletariat. As I stated yesterday, and I'll show you the clip again, some legal minds think that this is an overreach to be adding on those terrorism charges. Let me play this from CNN.
The indictment is already handed up by the grand jury. They'll present him with that indictment and his attorney, and undoubtedly he'll enter a not guilty plea. But there's something I really want to point out here, which is highly unusual, and it's my opinion that the Manhattan District Attorney's Office has a bit overreached in this indictment. They were originally going to go forward with a murder 2 charge against Luigi Mangione, which is just having the defendant having the intent to cause death of another human being and the defendant being the cause of that death. They've now gone forward and enlisted this terrorism component to a murder 1 indictment, which means they presented evidence in front of the grand jury, which is a group of 24 people from the community, without a judge in place, just a district attorney and a group of 24 grand jurors who hear evidence. It is undoubted, or I believe that the DA presented that alleged manifesto to try to get this terrorism charge added on as murder 1, but they're going to have a harder time proving that in court for one reason, and I'll make it fast. This victim was shot in the back of the head, not in the front of the head, on a quiet sidewalk early in the morning in the dark, and it doesn't appear from a defense attorney's perspective that this was intended to be a terroristic type of murder.
So one other thing I want to ask.
That's priceless, Jake Tapper. Wait a minute. I didn't know you were going to say that. You're straying from our narrative that he's a terrorist.
I want to get your reaction to the horrific shooting of the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson. Your colleague, Senator Elizabeth Warren, said this.
Violence is never the answer. This guy gets a trial who's allegedly killed the CEO of United Health. But you can only push people so far. And then they start to take matters into their own hands.
Senator Warren quickly clarified. She said, violence is never the answer, period. I should have been much clearer that there is never a justification for murder. My big picture question for you, though, Senator, is this the right time in the wake of this horrific murder?
You know, as a resident of Massachusetts, I can tell you firsthand that a lot of people here are not that impressed with the governor. Not impressed at all. And again, that she hasn't done anything about John O'Keefe's death. She hasn't done much to help solve the case. So I get where she was coming from. And of course, the corporate media is going to demonize her for speaking the truth. That if people are not permitted to protest peacefully and to see results from their peaceful protests, they will inevitably take matters into their own hands. And I say that as someone who is against violence. But that's the truth. That's what happens. It has happened to every single empire that has ever existed. Okay, people? Empires get overthrown, governments get overthrown, and monarchies get overthrown. It happens. It happens time and time again because these pyramidal systems don't care about the people at the very bottom of the pyramid.
To be talking about healthcare policy.
Look, Elizabeth Warren,
By the way, her question over here reminds me of when Republicans make this excuse, like, this just isn't the right time to bring this up after there's a big shooting. It's exactly the right time. And if you actually care about people like, the CEO, God forbid they care about the people who are killed by the healthcare system. Like, she doesn't mention the murder, what I consider a murder of 68,000 people who die per year as a result of lack of healthcare coverage. Maybe is it the right time to bring that up? Yes, it's always the right time to bring that up. The fact that 50% of cancer patients in America experience bankruptcy, yes, it's the right time to bring that up. Like, how rude. It's so rude to bring this up now that a CEO has been killed. No, that's exactly when you bring it up. So disgusting. And this is really like a big story that Elizabeth Warren explained why stuff like this happens. God forbid. Anyway.
Obviously understands killing. Elizabeth Warren obviously understands killing and murder and shooting somebody in the back is totally unacceptable. But what I think has happened in the last few months is that what you have seen rising up is people's anger at a health insurance industry which denies people the health care that they desperately need while they make billions and billions of dollars in profit. So killing anybody, shooting somebody in the back who's the father of two is outrageous. It is unacceptable. Nobody should applaud it. I know Senator Warren did not. But I think what we need to ask ourselves when we talk about healthcare is why we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee healthcare to all people, why we have a life expectancy which is significantly lower than in other countries, why working class people die 5 to 10 years shorter than the people on top. So, Kristen, I feel very strongly about this. And I think the time is long overdue for us to guarantee health care to every man, woman, and child, especially at a time when we're spending twice as much per capita on health care as the people of every other nation. Goal of health care is not to make drug companies and insurance companies phenomenally rich. It's to guarantee quality care to all of our people.
But in a system that is for profit, it is profits before people. It's just how it is. That is the world we are living in the U.S. today. It is so blatantly obvious that is the world we live in. Companies and corporations in the U.S. today are modern day empires. Every major corporation is in and of itself an empire, a pyramidal system with people who control at the top of the pyramid and slaves at the bottom of the pyramid. Corporations are no different than empires. They are no different than monarchies. Brian Thompson was at the top of a modern day empire, that being United Healthcare.
And by the way, that clip, as you saw, Newsbusters came up at the end. And the irony is that this was from conservative Newsbusters considered a bad thing that Bernie did. That he's, according to them, condoning murder, which, give me a break. he like explicitly said murder's bad. I don't really think that like Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders are doing Stan Luigi memes, although I like those, but yeah.
It's really sad that this issue only really becomes
right.
a national issue worthy of debate at a time like this when there was a murder. Like when Bernie was running for president, there was a discussion about it. And that's when, of course, Hillary Clinton talked about how it will never, ever, ever happen. Right. And so that was shut down. But so basically with the exception of when Bernie runs for president and that time when he got a bunch of Democrats to actually co-sponsor his measure, like Kamala Harris. But then, of course, when the political wind shifted, they all threw him under the bus and Kamala Harris said she no longer supports Medicare for all.
Right.
So, in that kind of climate, it takes a murder for this issue to get national attention, and that's just a scandal.
Yeah.
Right. It's just like the marijuana situation, the marijuana debate in the U.S., which, by the way, there are still states in the U.S. that have not legalized marijuana, just arbitrary laws. They still exist here in the U.S. People who don't think for themselves, we have those in abundance here in the U.S. But like it was like the government, the federal government, the U.S. government did not want to legalize marijuana until they figured out a way they could profit from it. And that's why in the states that have legalized marijuana, there are countless dispensaries, and those dispensaries are taxed out the ass because of the federal government. You see, marijuana was illegal when the federal government couldn't profit from it, but now it can, so it's totally cool. And that's the same with healthcare, people. Okay? It's the same with healthcare in the US. It's only here in existence because it's profitable. And the moment it does not become profitable, it is no longer a U.S. tradition. It's something else. It's not what the U.S. stands for. The U.S. doesn't give a damn about human life or the quality of life of the average U.S. American citizen. They don't give a damn. The government doesn't give a damn. They want for us whatever is profitable for them. That's where it goes, guys. Okay, that's where the mechanism is. It's where the money is. Follow the money. And just like with weed, just like with marijuana, it only became legal when the government was able to profit from it. Healthcare will not be universal so long as the government can't profit from it. So we can demonize all these corporations as much as we want to, and they are part of the problem. 1000%, these corporations, these greedy, excessively greedy corporations are part of the problem, but it is also the US government doing deals with them, accepting their lobbying dollars and agreeing that, hey, we can't profit from it, it shouldn't go through. That's the US government, and that's every major corporation in the US. Profits before people.
When I say all the king's men, you can kind of figure it out just by looking at this picture. This happened today. This is Luigi Mangione. He arrived in New York City today, being escorted by a slew of police officers, and there's Eric Adams right there, mayor of New York, also escorting him, which is pretty interesting considering the fact that Mayor Adams is also indicted. So you have Mayor Adams, who has been indicted, who is escorting Luigi Mangione. Like, I don't know what's happening here, but this to me just reminded me of something that I have seen before. We're going to get into all of that and why this is ridiculous. United Healthcare CEO killing latest Luigi Mangione faces federal charges, including stalking and murder. So they have added another charge on top of terrorism, which is stalking. I always feel like somebody's watching me. Who's watching? Luigi traveled from Georgia to allegedly stalk and kill United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. And they said that he targeted the healthcare industry because it checked every box. One of a number of entries in a notebook in which the suspect discussed the plot in weeks before the brazen crime, according to a federal criminal complaint. So now they found this notebook. Mangione was hit with 4 federal charges Thursday, including stalking, firearms offense involving a silencer, and murder through use of a firearm, and a charge that makes him eligible for the death penalty. Everybody, you see what they're doing? They are really trying to make an example out of Luigi Mangione. They're now saying that he is eligible for the death penalty. Now, you tell me. Because I have seen people that have been mass shooters. We have seen people that have killed way more people, allegedly, and they weren't eligible for the death penalty. So they're trying to make an example out of Luigi. You got to understand that. This picture that you see here, you know why they have all these people around him? Intimidation. They're trying to intimidate the American people because they want you to be afraid. They are sending a wink and a nod to the elite class. You have to understand, all of these cops surrounding Luigi Mangione is not because they believe he is incredibly dangerous. It is because they are sending a message to the elite class. It is a wink and a nod from the police to the elites to let them know we got your back. Because poor people get killed over and over again. And I don't see this many officers surround these people. Dylan Roof walked into a church and killed 9 people. He didn't have this many officers surround him. And you guys have seen it as well. So this is what they're doing, folks. They're sending a message to the elites to let them know we got your back.
As I was saying, the U.S. government and all of these corporations, including Big Pharma, which is a conglomerate of corporations, medical corporations, for-profit medical corporations, they all speak the language of money. The U.S. government only cares about you when you have money, and corporations only care about you when you have money.
Don't worry, CEOs, we got your back. And the people aren't buying it. The public is not buying it. It says the federal complaint contains previously unreleased excerpts from the notebook that police said they seized from Mangione. Authorities said the writings express hostility towards the health insurance industry and wealthy executives in particular. You see what I'm saying? They are sending a message, folks. It goes on to say here, according to the complaint, an entry that was marked on August 15th said the details are finally coming together, and I'm glad in a way that I've procrastinated because it allowed me to learn more about, and it says acronym for company. In an entry marked on October 22nd, 2024, the writing said, 1.5 months, this investor conference is a true windfall. And most importantly, the message becomes self-evident. Later on in the entry, the pages described an intent to whack the CEO of one of the insurance companies at its investor conference, the complaint said. So they have found this notebook, and now they're saying that they have basically everything that they need to put him away. Like I said, they're even saying that he is eligible for the death penalty. And I want to show you what this looked like earlier today. Tired Peasant said, where's the police force when someone shoots up a school? So you see how now all of a sudden, watch this. This is when he entered New York City. All of a sudden, all these cops are available.
And guys, where is Pennsylvania in relation to New York State? Where is Pennsylvania in relation to New York State? It's the neighboring state, right? Like, they couldn't drive. Like, you know how expensive it is to fly a helicopter? You know, the fuel. They couldn't drive him. They had to be a helicopter. Like, guys, they sought resources to present Luigi Mangione in this theatrical way for the media. This was all for the media. And just like Sabby said, it was for other corporations, other CEOs. Don't you guys worry. We'll fly them in a helicopter. It'll be a big show. We'll make an example of anybody that does this to you, elite class. The comment the comment on the screen reads, doing the most. Yeah, they're being so extra. They're being so extra right now. And Sabby's on point. Jordan Cheriton from Status Quo, he is on point. And so many others are on point. Like, they are making an example of Luigi Mangione.
Dramatic, right? Like, you would have thought that they were escorting a serial killer. I mean, you would have thought that they were escorting Charles Manson, right? No, this is to send a message. You'll see another one here where he arrived as well. Look at all these people
here over the rotors of the helicopter. Talk to us about what you're seeing now and just the scale of the law enforcement presence there.
Yeah, like I said, I've never seen anything like this, Boris, to be quite honest with you. There are just law enforcement from so many levels here, and it's very clear, as you just saw, that walk from the helicopter all the way down that pier to that Sprinter van, which he just got into, while he's shackled. They clearly want the photo opportunity to show what they believe they got their guy. I mean, that's what it really feels like.
Even mainstream media, guys, even the woman speaking, she's like, they clearly want a show. Not even CNN can deny it. They want a show. They don't do this for anybody else, guys. That's how valuable CEOs are to the federal government.
That was like a long perp walk, as we would call it, in the news industry. And now we're told in that Sprinter van he will travel to a federal building where he will be federally processed. I also
here.
So that's another one of the videos I wanted to show you. And I want you to see also how people are discussing this on social media, because I think what they tried to do again is to intimidate the public with the pictures that they showed. But these images didn't intimidate people. People on social media calling Luigi a straight up G. Like, people, and I'll show you here. Let's go ahead and add these in here. Power to the people. And you can see this, the scene of this.
His newly retained attorney, account of federal murder through use of a firearms offense, as well for using a silencer and muffler in the alleged murder, as well as 2 stalking charges as well. His newly retained attorney, Karen Agnifilo, suggested that federal charges in this case would be overkill. I just want to note, you see New York City Mayor Eric Adams not far behind Mangione there. Again, a very large law enforcement presence. This was an incident that sparked worldwide attention as Mangione was able to get away soon after the murder.
And we all lived through COVID, you know, and that was also a display from Big Pharma, how every Western nation followed the same protocol. The COVID era, during 2020, Big Pharma was on display. They demonstrated how they can get to every single major news network in the world and every Western nation in the world and have them all follow the same protocol, some more strictly than others. Australia having rather strict demonstrations of that protocol, as well as Ireland and the UK and the US. Certain parts of the US were really strict. And all it came to, guys, was a death rate that was less than 2% of the population. Like, tuberculosis kills more people than COVID ever did. Tuberculosis has been far more contagious than COVID ever was. But Big Pharma just had this new paradigm. And not only did Big Pharma reign over the world, but so too did the major corporations like Amazon and Walmart. They were permitted to remain open, while hundreds of thousands of independent businesses in the US, as an example, in the US, permanently closed. The major corporations like Amazon and Walmart were permitted to remain open for business, but smaller businesses were forced to close and they could not reopen. They could not reopen. They did not have the resources like Amazon and Walmart. So not only was the COVID year 2020 about Big Pharma's power, it was also about the power of corporations.
Clearly, in what was a calculated move, as well as investigators finding key details in the search for him, that book bag in Central Park full of Monopoly money. One interesting detail, I believe, Bridget.
Like, people are on, and the media, corporate media, does not understand like how wrong they are getting this. There are people protesting outside saying free Luigi. Like, the images that they're showing you is actually helping Luigi. Someone has a sign here that says free Luigi.
Good luck. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah, and you'll see more images like this. She said privatized healthcare is not a crime. Even this picture here, power to the people. That one big performance by the NYPD, and it backfired spectacularly. Their goal was to make Luigi Mangione look like a Batman villain. Instead, it made him look like a folk hero who fought back against the system that puts profit over our own lives. Like, literally, like, they just don't, they are, look at this picture, look at this image, and tell me that this doesn't strike a chord. Because seeing that image doesn't make a lot of people feel, worried. It doesn't make them feel fearful. It makes them feel empathy for Luigi. And I saw this picture and I had to say to myself, is this Batman? Is New York City supposed to be Gotham? Like, what is this? It kind of reminds you of the scene in Superman when all the cops surrounded Superman and they arrested him. That's what this reminds you of. What the hell is this supposed to be? So this is not something that makes people fearful. It makes people look at this and say, that's the guy who tried to help all of us in the healthcare system. And they don't seem to understand that the expression that they tried to portray with this image is not what happened at all. Not what happened at all. This was over dramatic. I didn't see them take anybody else in like this. People who have killed hundreds, thousands, people have killed multiple people. You didn't see them take them in like this. There were people.
And guys, let's not forget, if you don't know, you should know that the FBI was proven to have murdered Martin Luther King Jr. It's in a court case, right? The FBI murdered Martin Luther King Jr., but they were not deemed a terrorist organization. The members of the FBI weren't on display like Luigi Mangione is on display with the NYPD and other federal agents, right? Or how the CIA put cocaine in the streets during the 80s and the 90s and destabilized families in the US, in this country. Families that to this day are not healed because of the horrendous effects of cocaine addiction. You know, parents choosing drugs over their kids, that kind of destabilization. The CIA knew about it, and it's well documented, but the CIA is not considered a terrorist organization, right? We've got corrupt federal agencies like the FBI and the CIA who do horrendous things every day. They have a track record of psychopathy, but they're not considered terrorist organizations. And this one guy, Luigi Mangione, guns down a CEO, Brian Thompson, and now the federal government wants to label Luigi Mangione a terrorist. This is the world we live in, guys, and you have to be paying attention.
Line saying that this could be an album cover. Like, I'm not kidding. It's working in the opposite direction because people are seeing this and they said that could be an album cover. People are online and they're saying they took Superman. Like, the public is not turning in your favor because the public has suffered under the healthcare system that Luigi was talking about. And this is not to advocate for violence on the show. We do not advocate for violence on the show. But every step that corporate media is trying to take and law enforcement and the criminal justice system is trying to take in this particular case, it is not winning over the public in their favor. Why do you think some of them said stop showing his face? People aren't looking at this and they're saying, oh my God, I'm so glad you caught the guy. No, they're not. People are saying the exact opposite. That's what they don't understand. So this is not a win. This is not a win. And for Eric Adams to be there, talk about the pot calling the kettle black. So they are not getting the perception that they think they would get. And even in this clip here, here's another one, which I also thought, like they said, making him meet Eric Adams is cruel and unusual punishment. And as you'll see it there again, it reminds you of the scene from Superman. That's what it reminds me of. So get out of here with this, man. We have watched people that were serial killers. They didn't treat Charles Manson this way. They didn't treat Dylan Roof this way. This is a sign from the police, from law enforcement, to the establishment, to the elite, to let them know if somebody comes after you, we got your back. Because once again, law enforcement protects capital. They protect wealth. All these poor people and working class people that have been killed, when their killer is caught, you don't see this happen because they don't give a damn about you. You aren't worth as much. It's a class issue, and we cannot, listen, I don't care which way you are on this particular subject, but the one thing I want to drive home, it is a class issue, what they are doing. Now, all of a sudden, we're supposed to sit back and believe that the police are doing their job, that they're heroes. Oh, look at them saving the day. How many people watching the show have had loved ones, have had people that they've known that have been killed, that have been murdered, and the police gave up and never even tried to solve those cases? You don't make enough money. You don't have enough billions. You were poor. You were working class. They're not trying to find your killer.
Excellent. Really good. I will leave all of these links in the description below. Thank you for watching.